Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Okay, everybody, Sandra, if you would mind calling roll, please.
Kim DeShazo,
Here.
Kathy Brown. Here. Sherry Palmer,
Present.
Steve Moore,
Here.
Mason Daniel.
All right, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Welcome to our, what month is this? September board meeting. Thanks for being here. I would like to especially welcome Carl Johnson, who is in as our board attorney this evening. He is partners with Whit Colvin. And he's here with us tonight. Thank y'all for being here. Let's see, let's look at our agenda, everybody. Everybody had a minute to look at our agenda. All right, I would entertain a motion to adopt our agenda for the evening.
I make a motion to adopt our agenda.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting tonight's agenda, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Miss Lisa Bright is here tonight. Lisa, I'll invite you to come up and give us an update from the city council.
Perfect. Thank you. A lot of things going on in the city. Of course, we have our workshop meeting Thursday night. We'll be going over our audit that we were audited every year and our budget. So if you're really into numbers and want to come hear that, our accountants will be there and be going over all of those figures. We also have a chamber luncheon this coming Thursday, and the speaker is Jay Jellin, which is the CEO of Amerex. So he's really an interesting person to hear all the things that Amerex makes right here in the city of Trussville, which is impressive because it's a worldwide company. And of course, Dog Days. Dog Days was a huge hit on Saturday. If anybody got to go, just had the weather cooperated. It just rained at about 9 o'clock, which was great. So the vendors were there. We always want our food and vendors to have a good day because we want them to make money and come back the next year. Added, I thought was a really cute thing to it where our public works brought all their trucks out there and let the kiddos just climb in them. And it was really a great photo op and a good thing for the kids to do. So shout out to Public Works for that. And then, of course, our Loop Road, if you've noticed, the Raymond Best building has been taken down right there close to First Baptist. That will be the process of us moving forward to do the Loop Road that will connect over to Glen and then eventually over towards where Edgar's is. One more step of trying to alleviate traffic on Highway 11 best we can. So that process is moving right along. We had to acquire a lot of properties and right of ways to be able to get that moving, but it is. And then the other small road that we're doing as a connector is Commerce Circle, which I'm assuming it'll have to be changed because it's not a circle anymore. So that's been cut through. That should be done in 4 to 5 months, which will allow people on the Windsong side of the railroad tracks when a train is stopped access to cut through the industrial park and our industrial park members to be able to turn on Highway 11 with a red light, which is very good. So those little small connector roads, we're really hoping is going to help us with some traffic on Highway 11. But that's all I really have right now, unless you have any questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, Dr. Martin, I'll turn it over to you for some recognitions.
All right, members of the board, we have just a few recognitions there that you can see on your agenda. The first is recognition for Miss Erin Piper, and Erin sends her regards that she was not able to join us tonight. She just found out here recently that she needed to take care of a family matter or else she would have joined us. Erin is being awarded the 2023 Education Advocate of the Year by ARC, which is an advocacy group that supports students with special needs. So this is a very nice recognition for her and also a nice recognition for our Board of Education as well as our school system. They will have their annual luncheon tomorrow, at which time she will be awarded. So congratulations to her. She has recently moved from being an assistant principal at Hewitt-Trussville Middle School to now she is serving as our Exceptional Education Collaborative Specialist. She assumed that role August 21st. If I could ask members of the board to join me here in the front of the dais. I'm sorry, but I am going to ask you to do so. I can promise you there will be no ducking in these pictures here. So we have recognitions this evening through the Alabama Association of School Boards. And so as everyone is aware, as educators, we have a responsibility for continuing education. Well, as board members, our Board of Education members have that same responsibility. And so we'd like to congratulate our board members for their compliance achievements with the School Board Association. Kim DeShazo, Kathy Brown, Sherry Tolbert, and Steve Ward have all exceeded their compliance training requirements for the 22-23 school year. And Sherry Tolbert has achieved level 1 status for the 22-23 school year. So congratulations. And we've got a couple of certificates here for you. If everyone give them a round of applause, please. We take a picture. All right, the last item that I have under recognitions here is on Thursday, September 14th, the District 5 of the School Board Association met at Homewood High School. And we had several boards of education from the Jefferson and Shelby County area. And let's see, Ms. Brown, if you would please share with us what took place at that meeting.
Yeah, so there were several of us that attended also with Dr. Martin. And as he said, we're in District 5. The state of Alabama is divided into 9 districts. So we're part of District 5. So we had our fall meeting, and it's usually divided into 2 parts. There's an educational part, which we had an attorney, Ann Knox, that presented, and her presentation was on navigating student discipline and the roles that school boards play in that. So it was very eye-opening, and there was a lot of real case scenarios, and we were able to, there was open discussion if anybody wanted to talk about it and ask her questions. So that went on. And then the latter part of the meeting, Sally Smith, that name just left me. She's our executive director for Alabama Association of School Boards, and she passes out. This is just letting y'all know what goes on. They do these district meetings in the fall at all 9 districts at different times, and they pass out these little clickers. And what they do is bring us up to date on legislation and things that affect us in public school system. And they're trying to get a feel on where we want to go with that. So every school board member gets to vote, and they take all these results and they formulate their plan, and they're all about public education and taking us and being our advocate in Montgomery. So it's very interesting to see, because as you know, and as we know, all school districts have different needs. So sometimes there's a different opinion on stuff, and sometimes everybody's in the same line. So they did that. And I guess the best part of the meeting for me is I got a door prize. Anyway, it was a real informative meeting, and enjoyed it. And they always serve us a meal. So anyway, that's part of our training, and that was our fall district meeting. So anyway, thanks.
Do we have a picture of you with your?
It was bigger than it was big as my car almost. It was a basket full of food. And it has sat on my kitchen table, and we got into it, and we've eaten a lot of it over the weekend.
I just want to make sure we use it.
I sent it to work with Keith today, so it was nice. So anyway, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Kirkland, our financial report.
Thank you. I apologize for being late. I am in a week-long professional development meeting with my escort group, so real fun stuff. Had a great last speaker, Whit Colvin. 4 hours on employment law, so I am fired up. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Jim.
Board members and superintendent, you have the monthly financial report for August in your packet for your review. All bank statements have been reconciled to the financial statements and uploaded to the State Department. And all necessary edits have been corrected for the month. As of the end of August, we've collected 95.3% of our budgeted revenues as compared to 95.79% last year. And total expenditures for the general fund as of the end of the month were 84.4% of the budget compared to 81% last year. And as usual, upon approval, the monthly financial report will be put on our website for public review. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkland. All right, guys, the next on our list is the consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the consent agenda? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all right, any discussion? Dr. Martin, anything we need to?
Yes, if you're looking through consent agenda, just a couple of items to take note of. As Mr. Kirkland mentioned just a second ago, we do have the financial statement in there for approval. Last month, Mr. Kirkland did share aspects of the 23-24 capital plan. The plan is due to the State Department on the 22nd, and so we'll need to approve that this evening as well. 3 bid renewals. We have 3 change orders, and all of those relate to our career tech renovation taking place over at the high school. A few facility usage agreements for approval by the Board of Education. If you look at item 14 under consent agenda, this is an owner architect agreement for a conceptual design associated with the softball field. And so I do want to point that out, that is really just the design of that project. And then that would need to come back to the board following design. Over on page 3 of our 3 of 5 of our agenda, we have several field trips. So I'll just share with you same day field trips. We have 38 of those to be approved. Out of state overnight, we have 10 in total. And I just want to make sure the board understands that these are not recent field trips coming to the Board of Education for the first time. These are field trips that we are bringing to the board. There's been recent legislative change that states that for educators to be covered under the Educator Liability Trust Fund, field trips need to be approved by the Board of Education. So these are re-emerging for the board to approve, which has not been the case in the past because of this change in legislation. And that should be all items under consent agenda.
All right, all in favor of adopting our consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is carried. All right, next, Dr. Martin, is personnel.
All right, for personnel, we do have, if you're looking at the personnel report that has been provided, we do have resignations and leave of absence, several employee extra services agreements to be approved. We have 4 employments before the Board of Education, as well as 8 supplements to be approved. And then we have 2 transfers and reassignments, of which one of those I'll just share with you. We'll be sharing under administrative reports with our curriculum and instruction team. I am pleased to recommend Kelly McGee as moving from a reading coach literacy specialist to district accountability and literacy specialist to be effective September 6th. We have 1 athletic contract for one of our coaches at the high school, and then 4 teams contracts before the Board of Education this evening.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel?
I make a motion.
Second? I second it. Any further discussion about personnel questions? All right, all in favor of adopting the personnel recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries. Next is new business.
All right, item number 1 under new business, as members of the board can see, approve the memorandum of understanding with the city of Trussville for mountain bike trails. This is a memorandum of understanding in which Mr. Walker, Coach Walker, and I had a chance to sit with our mountain bike team. There is a small portion of land that is owned by the Board of Education on the opposite side of the Cahaba from the stadium. And what the mountain bike team would like to do is build a trail through our property as well as city property to be used by their club. And so this would allow them to do so if granted by the Board of Education.
Do we, do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the city for the mountain bike trails project?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next.
All right, action item number 2 under new business is a memorandum of understanding with Jefferson State Community College. And I'll just share with you that Mr. Meads and I had a chance to meet with leadership from Jeff State. And Mr. Meads has been kind enough to work with them to allow the middle school site in the evenings to serve as a space where Jeff State could host a few of their classes. The reason for this is there is a portion of the Glendale Farm property, about several acres, but it would be committed to a 10,000 square foot facility where Jeff State would build a continuing education space for adult learning. And so what we feel like this memorandum of understanding would do is start that partnership that then could move on to the Glendale Farm space. I'll share with you as one add to this memorandum of understanding. There was discussion as to what would be the ask from an operational standpoint. And they had put a dollar figure out there. And through negotiations with Jeff State, we arrived at, rather than them supporting the school system, say $500 a year or $1,000 a year, instead what they would do is grant 2 scholarships, one for one male senior student and one for one female senior student, to continue to strengthen that partnership. So I bring this recommendation before the board this evening.
And Dr. Brown, I just had a question to clarify. They are providing their own security and things like that.
That's right. That's right. They'll have one of their officers there each night that they're on our site.
Okay, and they are limited in what parts of?
Sure. So it is 4 classrooms in the back of the building. Mr. Means, if you would chair, please.
So the new part where we have the new band room, where we have the 2 stories upstairs currently, we have 4 to 5 classrooms that really grow. So it would be in that avenue. They park right by the field house, access that sidewalk, and only access that part of it, which is where the elevator is. And that's the easiest point of access.
Okay. Good deal. All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with Jeff State.
Make a motion.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Final site.
All right. Action item number 3 before the board this evening. Final site actually has purchased the website host that we currently use, which is Blackboard. And so I commend Ms. Chamberlain, Dwayne on their extensive review of Final Site. We can either wait until you no longer can access Blackboard as a website host, or we go ahead and move forward with a very aggressive pricing structure that they have put in place. The contract is for 3 years. It does hold the pricing for our website constant for those 3 years. And I'll just tell you, we have reviewed several of the different templates, and it will be an upgrade, I believe, for our website. So I bring this as a recommendation this evening.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the agreement with Final Site?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and the last one is an agreement with HPM.
Yes, HPM is Horror Program Management. There has been, I believe, a lot of excitement generated around the Glendale Farm property here recently. I know that the mayor is going to speak to this in more depth when he gives his State of the City talk in October. What this will allow us to do, this is a contract with HPM through their demography department. It will allow us to start having conversation and looking at data around the potential zoning if a new elementary school were to come online. And I need to emphasize that the term "if" a new elementary school, but this is the initial step in that process in working with the city.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agreement with HPM?
I make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All right, any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's all for new business.
Yes.
Okay, administrative reports, Dr. Martin.
Yes, our administrative reports this evening, they will be brought to us from our curriculum and instruction department. We have Kelly McGue and Dr. Lisa Berry. So Dr. Berry.
Thank you all. Good evening. All right, can y'all hear me okay? I know it makes April so happy. Okay, make sure my clicker is working. Do you already have this pulled up, April? Yes. Great. Okay, so what we're basically bringing you is a lot of information, but it's very recent information. And so just to kind of walk you through what we're about to do. ACT scores, I think, were released in somewhere around June. Our ACAP summative scores, we just got those about maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. We have some fall Ames Web data that we want to share with you that is related to our literacy screener, which the Alabama Literacy Act requires. Ms. McGee is going to share some information about literacy walkthroughs. And then we have some information from the University of Alabama on just feedback from our students. And so as we get that college data, we'll report that. It's very intermittent. You can't really predict when you're going to get it. So we would anticipate something from UAB, typically Auburn. So when we get that, we'll share that with you guys as well. So that's the reasoning behind all this. And one of the things that we talk about a lot too is when we receive data, we have a time frame that goes by to where we certify the data. So sometimes when you see data that's reported, like for example, in AL.com, that's great and wonderful, but we always feel confident and want to report the data once we've certified the data. So that's kind of why there's a little bit of a lag time between sometimes, but that's the reasoning for that. Okay, so y'all ready? All right, we're going to start with the ACT. But before we talk about the ACT, I want to tell you about something that I'm really proud of that our high school and now with Mr. King there, and I'll tell you kind of how he's kind of put his spin on this as well. For the past few years, we have had an emphasis on ACT. And one of the things that we know through research, when we prepare our kids and we give them time to prep and to practice, it does have a direct correlation to increased test scores. And so we've worked with a group of retired teachers out of Arkansas. Their names are Cantrell and Waller. And basically what they do is we administer the mock test. We do it each fall and spring. I'm going to talk more about that in just a second. And they will give us the results to when we can turn them over to teachers. And so basically what teachers will then do with the data is to take the key findings, to talk about test taking strategies, and really just try to get our kids as prepared as possible for that test that happens in March for accountability. One thing that Mr. King and his team, and I like to give Joy Young some credit for this as well. She's been very instrumental in leading this work at the high school too, as well as some of the teacher leaders. But they secured a grant this past year and we were really pleased about this. So we just had the mock a couple of days ago. And we also tested 9th and 10th grade. So we're kind of broadening that a bit. And so we're excited to get those results, but you can just see the growth from fall to spring in where our kids kind of started and where they ended up for the spring mock. So they would do that right before the actual test in March. So I want you guys to kind of see some of the behind the scenes. You know, sometimes we get up here and we show data, but we don't always talk about what our teachers do with the data. And I think that is the most important thing that you can do. And they do a great job with that. So just a reminder. Okay. Okay. All right, just a reminder about the ACT and what's tested and what the benchmarks are, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But there's 5 subject areas: English, math, reading, science, and writing. Typically, we'll analyze the writing scores, but typically, depending upon which college a student might choose to go to, writing isn't always looked at. It's more of just the composite score. But the benchmarks are English 18, math 22, reading 22, and science at 23, with the highest possible score being a 36. Okay, so what we're looking at, notice the title is, it says state contract. And the reason I put that on there is because it's important for y'all to see that the ACT is a measure of accountability for our state report card. And so what you're looking at, what I like to say is it's one test on one day in March.
And that score is what our State Department utilizes for accountability purposes. So what you're looking at is basically a 3-year kind of trajectory of our scores. And what we really like to see, obviously, is an increase in that composite score. So if you look at a 20.1 this last year, you can see the most significance between 2020 and then to now or to last year. But the point is we're inching that score up, and that's a really hard thing to do as a grade level because everybody has different experiences with it. Meaning, you know, we provide training at the school level through mock and all that stuff, but we have kids that take the test multiple times. They have tutors, they do ACT prep, and then we have kids that take this test in March. That's the first time they've taken the ACT. So that's pretty great to see that. So I wanted to kind of show you guys that. And then I also wanted to show you, next slide. Okay, I think I'm just gonna stick with that. I think it's better. I wanted to show you that what our true, when I say true score, this really is our true score. And you can see we're almost at a 23 per composite. And guys, both of those numbers are well above the state and national average. So what you're looking at, all of the students in our district, okay, that have taken this ACT. So you can notice the change 1,107. So that's really where we are with the ACT, if that makes sense. But we talk about the state contract because that's the number that the state utilizes for accountability. Okay, but I wanted you guys to see this, that we really are doing even better than what that state contract shows.
Well, and can I just say something too? Like,
Sure.
as a parent of two in the high school, it has been, I think the idea of having the 9th grade and 10th grade take it is tremendously helpful, and not just for experience sake, but just the time, like keeping the timing. I mean, that's something that both of my kids have, as they're doing these mock testing, being able to answer them in the time frame and just being in that testing environment. I'm very interested to see how much our scores change over the next couple of years, because by the time my now 9th grader actually is taking it, quote unquote, for real, he will have taken it two or three times just with the mock experience. And so
Really great point. And that's something that we've learned through this process too. When we get the data and we talk to kids, it really is a time management issue for a lot of kiddos. And so there are strategies to help them when they, realize, oh my gosh, I only have 2 minutes left. What can I do? Because you want to try all of them. You want to answer all of them, but it's more about let's manage the time so that we have enough time to really prepare for each answer. So that's a great point. And so that's a good strategy that, we can work on with kiddos to give them more experience in managing that time aspect. Okay, so we're going to switch gears. So there's a little bit with ACT, and we're going to talk about our ACAP summative. Notice it says grades, we go back one slide. Notice it says grades 2 through 8 because we administer it in grades 2, but for accountability purposes, only grades 3 through 8 are looked at. So just kind of know that when you see that. So the first slide, it really is to kind of just put the rankings there because everybody's really interested in the rankings. And I think that's a good thing. But I think what I'm really proud of, just advance them, Kelly. So that was for math, and there's ELA, and there's science. So yes, we're in the top 10, and we're super proud of that. But we want to keep moving it up, right? We want to keep working on that. And I think what we're most proud of, and what we talk about all the time, is the consistency for Trussville City Schools. What you'll notice about some districts, they might be on the list for science, but they're not on there for math, or they might be on there for ELA or another site. But the point is, we're there across the board. And I think that's a true testament to our teachers and the wonderful job that they do in the classroom, because it is difficult to teach all of these subjects at such a high level. And that's what they're doing. We're not forgetting about science. And I'll be honest, I think, in our experience and just things, the talk in education, that isn't always the case everywhere that you go. So I'm really proud of the commitment that our teachers and our administrators make into teaching all of these subjects to fidelity and doing a good job with that. Okay, you're up.
All right. Here we go. All right, I want to draw your attention first and foremost to the 4 color bands. The top, of course, being purple, that is going to be above grade level, which is a level 4. Level 3 is going to be blue, and that's considered to be proficient. They're proficient at that grade level. Green, you can see is level 2, and that's meeting some standards. Level 1, that's area, and that's orange. That's going to be need of support. Okay. So the first thing that you're seeing over here to the left is going to be the state comparison to Trussville City. Okay. And we're going to first start out with grade 2, and this is ELA. So looking at the state, which we know we're way above the state there, we're looking at the 2 categories of levels 3 and level 4. Okay, so we say basically that 78% of our students are proficient in the, according to those, to the data there in the categories. The next 3 columns are going to be the representation of the schools, how they did individually. So we have Cahaba, we have Magnolia, and we have Payne. What I like to always say is, wow, we're so consistent. You can see that those numbers just they vary by very few points there. 78, 74, and again, 74, with an overall proficiency of 78. And that just goes to support our equitable curriculum that we have in our district. Okay, and then the next area is in the area of math. Again, over here we have the state, and then we have Trussville City for grade 2. And we do, like Dr. Berry said, this is not used into the accountability, but it is so good to have this second grade as a baseline data so that we can prepare them for the ACAP in 3rd grade when it really does matter according to the Alabama Literacy Act, because this is the first year that we have to deal with that retention piece. So looking at math here, we have 76% of our students are considered to be proficient in mathematicians, I guess you could say. And then we have Cahaba. You can see their levels 3, 4, and we have 78, 74, and 74 again. So, you know, we're consistent there. And then going to grade 3, so proud of this, our ELA, 81% proficient. That's just incredible. And then if you look at our 3 schools there, 74, 70, and 76. And what I really like looking at too is how low our need of support really is, because that goes to show you that our teachers and principals are really working on trying to make sure that those interventions are working. And then we can look at the math. We have 74% again as being proficient in those levels 3 and 4. Again, Cahaba, you can see 74 for Cahaba, 70 for Magnolia, and 76 for Payne. Excellent job there. Proceeding now to grade 4, we have 84% of our students are proficient in ELA. And, you know, thinking about when they're in 4th grade, they're really not learning to read anymore. They're reading to learn. So the text is going to be a little bit more complex there. You can see, again, the 3 areas and those categories, 73, 72, and then over here, a combination of 73 again. Oh, I get that was wrong. 80, go back. Let me go back to that. Yes, looking at Cahaba, you're going to see 86, 83, and then 82. And then I gave you the math part. Looking at grade 4 for proficiency, our students were 73rd percentile, which is excellent. And you can see the 3 areas there according to the schools. Those numbers were 73, 72, and 73. I just looked at those. Okay, and then looking at grade 5, 83 proficient. That is excellent. And then breaking it apart here to the 3 areas, we have 87, 80, and 82. So great job with the ELA in 5th grade, especially. And then, of course, our math. So please. Overall, our students are in the 70th percentile. And then looking at the breakdown of the 3 schools, 72, 72, and 70. So they're all right there together. Excellent.
I'm going to jump up and do middle school unless Coach Meads wants to come up here. I know you can, for sure. All right. Okay, so looking at sixth grade ELA, you can see 78% proficient. We only have one middle school, so we don't have to do any comparisons there, but we're super proud of that score. They did an excellent job with ELA. All right, looking at math, 59 percentile. We're proud of that. It's an increase. But again, this is an area that, we're going to continue to focus on. We're doing some great work with Mr. Meads and his team. And, we're just going to continue to work and improve with that. I will say that, typically this isn't unheard of. I mean, you can see what the state percentages are. The transition years can be kind of tricky. And we know that, but it's something we continually have our eye on. Grade 7 ELA, 73% proficient. You can see where the state falls with that as well. And then in 8th grade math, making gains. That is an improvement from last year, significantly above the state there. But again, it's work that we've got our eye on that. I'm going to show you some examples of what we're doing with that particular grade level. That I think is going to be very impactful. Our teachers are doing a great job, and we already are seeing some increases as a result. So we're proud of that. All right, and this is grade 8 ELA, 73%. And then again with 8th grade, an improvement and significantly above the state there as well. All right, so switching gears, we're gonna go back to the math in a minute, but I want to show you with science. So we only test 3 subject areas in science, grades 4, 6, and 8. So in science, grade 4, 74%, and then you can see the breakdown of the schools. Like Ms. McGee said, just very consistent. And I think that is just such a great thing to point out, is just how equitable it really is across all of our elementary schools. Grade 6 science. And keep in mind that, these percentages put us, 4th overall in the state. And grade 8 science, 68% proficient. All right, so before we switch and we talk a bit about math and kind of what we're looking at, I did want to put this slide in, and this is 2 years of ACAP because that's what we have. We have 2 years. And so this is just a comparison of where our level 3s and 4s from 2022 until this prior year or this previous year. So you can see, again, going back to this notion of just the consistency, really extremely proud of the ELA, considering that those standards changed and they are more rigorous, which is a good thing, but it means that we're meeting that expectation. And then you can see where we've had some gains across grade levels in math as well. And I think we're going to continue to see those numbers. But again, very consistent across the board. And so we like that, but we also like to target the areas that we want to improve on. And we've got a good plan for that. All right, so speaking of that, so let's talk about that for a second. So this is an example when we talked earlier about what do we do with the data? Do we just get it and we don't do anything with it? No, not at all. Our teachers, our principals, they work extremely hard to have data meetings, to break down data, to make sense of it, to make improvements. And so we're going to look at an example for math from middle school, but I want you to know that across the board, our principals lead some really, really good data meetings, whether they're using a SWOT analysis or whatever means that they use at their school. The point is they're using the data to make improvements. And so I wanted to kind of tell you what's going on here. So I'm proud of Mr. Meads, his assistant, Mr. Scott, did a lot of this work as well. And then 8th grade teachers were part of this. And so this, we have examples for English. This is just one example in math, but this is what you're looking at. So over here is just a snapshot of one period, first period for one teacher. So you have to think that's 7 periods of that, right? So we're on an 8-period day. So 3 8th grade teachers have this data for each of their periods. Does that make sense? All right, so what you can't see are student names, which would be over here. Okay, so every time you see one of those bands, think about a student name being attached to that. So what you're looking at is current 8th grade students, current 9th grade students. So where they were in 21, 22, And then this is the current eighth grade, right? Yeah, current eighth grade, this is seventh grade, current eighth grade. So what the teachers were able to do is kind of look and see, well, did we level those kids up this past year? Did we work hard enough for them to level up? And so as a result, we were able to then kind of look and say, okay, well, how can we utilize this data? Knowing that either kids stayed the same or they improved, or maybe they even went down a level. So what we looked at was the report card, because remember we talked about the accountability, and you can see up there that academic achievement is 40% of that report card grade, and so is growth. And so what the state does is they attribute point levels or point values for levels. So it's pretty easy to see this. If you're a level 1, you don't score any points. If you're a level 2, half a point, and then 1.25. So we were able to take where they were in 7th grade, where they currently fell in 8th grade, and see that the academic achievement improved. So that's the level of detail that I'm trying to explain to you that we kind of get into. And then we don't stop there. It goes further, because we start to look at, okay, now based on these outcomes, what strategies can we employ? As a classroom teacher, what are some things I can do? And so talking as a group, you know, the differentiation is a big thing. We need to be able to do different things for different kids depending upon where they are. So this is just one snapshot. And again, this is across the board. This is all levels, high school included. They do a great job with data analysis. And it's really just to try to drill down and figure out what's the best strategy to employ so that we can make improvements. Celebrate the strengths, because that's always important, and they do a great job of that. But then what do we do in areas that we want to improve in? So one example, but I wanted you guys to see this because I think that's important, because that's the big question we always task our teachers, you know, what do we do with the data? Because it doesn't matter if we don't do anything with it. So that answers that question, hopefully. Okay, any questions about that before I turn this over back to Kelly?
I just want to mention, so we had a chance to sit in a meeting with, I think it was 3 or 4 of your math teachers. And what I was so impressed with was, you know, usually you have one teacher, 20, 25 students, and they go in there and close it. In this, the strategy was all 3, there was ownership with all 75 students. They knew all 75 students across the 8th grade. So it was a real team approach, and they discussed those strategies and ways to implement those for those. I had asked you if you would share some of that, because I mean, it was magic to see that taking place there at the middle school when I had a chance to visit with you that day.
They're working hard, guys. And I know snapshot is not where we want it right now, but we are working every day to change that, right? We're having data meetings constantly with math and ELA. We're breaking down science data even more right now. About to do the same with science. So our teachers, our admin team, obviously, I heard exactly what that working very hard.
All right, so let's switch gears from ACAP, and now we're going to talk about Ameswell Plus. And that is our screener that we give our students 3 times a year for grades K through 5. And this is so that our students will be proficient on the ACAP. So it helps us to identify those students that could be at risk of not performing well on the ACAP. So I want to draw your attention to the 3 colors there. We refer it to them as a Christmas tree, because at the end of the year, we want to see all green, okay? So level 1 is going to be, that's going to be tier 1, and that's considered to be low risk students, okay? So they're at low risk of not meeting end of the year standards. Level 2, you're going to see here, tier 2 is moderate risk. And those, of course, will be ones that are receiving that intervention so that we can move them up to be low risk. And level 3, those are going to be students that are at high risk of not meeting the end of the year standards. So you can see that we have kindergarten. They come in very high. And then we have first grade. What do you notice about that first grade? We have a lot of what? We have a lot of red. Exactly. Well, guess what's happening there? They're learning to read. They're learning how to do school, but they're also learning how to actually do oral reading fluency. And that's what that test is based off of there. But you're gonna see at the end of the year, that green is gonna be so high. Grade 2, the format kind of changes a little bit for our second and third graders, because comprehension and vocabulary that's tested through the computer. Where in K and 1, that is 1-to-1 on a with a testing team member. So you can see there, we had 260 students across the district that were at low risk, with only about 69 students that were considered to be at high risk. The great thing about this is we know who every one of those students are. And we, through data meetings and that sort of thing, we really nailed in, it's a laser focus to say, okay, what can we do to move this child to the next level? So, and then grade 3, they're learning to read. I mean, they're reading to learn. So they're applying everything that they've learned in K1 and 2 to the 3rd grade. Any questions there? Okay. And then the next area, I did. Sorry. The next area is literacy walkthroughs. We have been this year, we adopted a new reading curriculum, and it was approved by the Alabama Literacy Task Force and the State Board of Education, and it is open court reading. All of our teachers had lots of extensive training this summer. They gave up 2 of their days to come to the board to be trained by the open court trainers. And they worked with the reading coaches to come up with look-fors. And these look-fors, and you can just kind of see here, this is what open court, these are the things that we need to see as we're going through for kindergarten. We also have one for 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade. And then you can just kind of see here that the one thing in these snapshots, we were able to get into Cahaba. And Dr. Martin even joined us one day at Payne. Dr. Berry has joined us. The principals have joined us as well. And then we come back together and we talk about what we saw. And that is so powerful. And then we provide some feedback to our principals, and then they share it with the teachers if that's their format. But this is a requirement of ARI. They do say we need you working with the principals to get in there and do instructional walkthrough so that we can make sure that teachers and principals can see exactly what's happening in the classroom so they can expect. But looking at these pictures, the one thing that stood out to me is how the engagement in each one of these pictures. You don't see a teacher sitting behind a desk because each teacher is at it. I mean, they are moving, they're using the Lego, the line, the puppet, lots of heavy engagement there. And we're just going to continue this, gather lots of data with it, and just improve. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. ARI is Alabama Reading Initiative, and they provide lots of.
Both of you have seen a lot of different changes in teaching reading through your years.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
why is this one better than anything else?
Well, I think because it's more than ever now, Mr. Ward, we have so many dyslexic learners. And so I feel like open court really addresses multisensory instruction. And it reaches all learners, not just a select few. We also, during this curriculum, it also has opportunities for enrichment. Not all students learn the same way, but the teachers open up as a whole group. I do, and then we do, and then the students work independently. So.
All right, how will we know if there's going to make a difference? I guess in our reading scores, I guess because if there's you think there's going to be a great percentage of change, you think there's going to be some?
It'll be gradual. I really do.
It won't be. It's not. We don't have a lot of room for improvement because we're.
Also, science teaching reading.
Yes.
So we can talk more about that, but this is the first curriculum that I'm aware that is really steep in that. That's really what all the training has been about in the last few years, in teaching teachers how to teach reading.
Yeah, when you know better, you do better. And so the science of teaching reading, we know how to teach reading now. We know how that brain learns to read. And so in every activity that the teachers are doing, it's embedded in that.
Do you think the colleges are picking up on this and finally getting to the point of realizing teachers have got to be able
what?
to
I'm
understand
so glad you
reading?
asked that. Absolutely, because I have, my daughter is at Alabama, and she's majoring in education.
Yay.
Yay. And so she's just now starting to get into into the classrooms. And she called me the other day and she was sharing with me about all of the things that are in the science of teaching reading. She said, I was in there doing phoneme segmentation, Mom. I was like, finally, I'm so glad. So,
Is she coming to Trussville to work for us, Dr. Martin? Are we going to offer some incentives for her?
Well, we've already approved
But I was gonna-
report for this month.
Well, and to add one thing to that too, yes, I think our state universities they are definitely coming along, but I have to give a shout out to JSU, Jacksonville State. They really kind of, I think, were the catalyst, in my opinion. They were graduating students that were already trained in letters, which is part of the science of teaching reading. And so I think they led the way. And so I think that's a really good thing. So I'll just give them a shout out. All right. And then finally, our University of Alabama report. And again, we'll share these as we get this information. But just some quick feedback from this. This is just a quick breakdown of, we had 51 students and kind of where they were going or what they were majoring in. And you can sort of see this breakdown. We still want to see this number go up. It's kind of been that way for the last few years. So we're still working hard with that. Nursing, trending down just a touch. That usually is kind of way on up there, but you can see the ones that are sort of staying that way. Business is always a popular field to go into, and engineering, and then the College of Arts and Sciences. So that's a breakdown of our 51 students at UA. And then I like to just take kind of some of the main courses that really all freshmen sort of kind of come in and have to take, and just break it down and let you guys kind of see. The bottom line in all of this, and I know you guys have it and might want to kind of look at it in more detail, our students continue to do very, very well at our state universities. And when I say very well, usually better than most. You can see right here, better than, even out of state students from out of state high schools. And then in totality of all freshmen, our students do really well. So we're proud of them for that. Then I actually just included some of the actual data here. This is depicted in the slide before. I just pulled it out so you can go to this. This one looks a little different, a little newer. This is a lot to kind of soak in, but it's valuable because it's sort of a breakdown of by ACT score and then by high school GPA. And so you can look at this and kind of draw some conclusions. One of the things that I noticed right off the bat was our completion rate. So I was really proud of that. I mean, all 51 of our kiddos attended fall, attended spring, and got through their first year. And that's not the case across the board. So you can look at some of that data. You also might draw some conclusions. One thing that stood out to me was our kiddos that go in that have that less than 20 on their ACT. Typically, their GPA is sort of reflected on that. There's lots of, potential reasons for that, but I'll go back to when I was on the ACT slide and we talked about those benchmarks. Really what ACT says, the benchmark, one of the things that you talk about with that is if a student can achieve the benchmark, then they have a 50% chance of scoring a B or higher in their college level coursework. So if you think about that a little bit and you think about those benchmarks, most of them hovered around the 20, okay, sometimes a little higher than that, 22, 23. There is a little bit of a correlation to that perhaps. So just some additional data, but all in all, just the consistency of our students. And we're so pleased to see that because this is kind of the beginning with the end in mind, right? So we're proud of those scores as well. And that is it. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. That was a great report. Lots of information. We do not have anyone signed up on the public participation this evening. At this time, the superintendent and the Board of Education would like to enter executive session. Our board attorney has provided legal certification for the board to enter executive session under pending or threatened litigation. So is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Ah,
Opposed? All right, the motion's carried. We will enter an executive session. We will not vote in executive session and there will be no business conducted following the executive session. We will only return to adjourn the meeting. So thank you all for being here tonight.